Hey everyone, this is James from Brewing Books. I'm here today to talk to you about how and why this book changed my life. It's quite a bold statement, but to a certain extent it did. See, this little book here is a short poem written by Professor Tolkien, which acts almost like the concluding chapter to The Lord of the Rings. In it, Bilbo Baggins writes a few verses about his journey towards the Grey Havens, together with the other hobbits, Gandalf and the elves, as he recalls the life he's lived and the adventures he's experienced, and now looking forward to the next stage of his journey. The poem is very powerful in its almost childlike simplicity. It recalls that sense of longing for the past, but also conveys a sense of ease and happiness at the thought of beautiful memories and experiences. It's difficult to describe in words what this poem conveys to its readers. And the only way of understanding these emotions is by reading and rereading it. To me, it exemplifies the joys of a fulfilled life. And despite its emphasis on a character who has now lived that life, I still found it as a beautiful way of appreciating the life I have and looking back at each instance that gave me joy and ultimately being thankful for it, whilst of course looking forward to the next. Sure, life is what it is. Sometimes it feels like mostly negatives rather than positives. But that's when I come back to this poem. I sit down, I read it quietly, not read it casually, but really savor the poem and the meanings behind the words. And I just let the meter and the pacing of the poem guide me from one verse onto the next. It's really a pity that the poem is this short, but it really does pack a punch. And it also speaks about the sea, the concept of this vast stretch of water that takes you beyond to magical places. This untamable, unfathomable element with its dangerous side, but also its peaceful and quite frankly incomparable sensation. Whenever you're by a shore or on a cliffside and you hear that rush of water, the crashing of waves, the foaming of the water. And the reading of this poem is ultimately made more impactful and more relevant having read The Lord of the Rings. As I said, this is the perfect conclusion, the ideal summing up of that story, as we see our main protagonists embarking on their final journey together. It hits hard, that nostalgic sense, especially if you read the poem right after finishing The Lord of the Rings, which I strongly encourage you to do. That feeling is so extraordinary, it's magical, it's Tolkien after all. In a way, it's both a good thing and a bad thing that Bilbo's last song was not included in The Lord of the Rings itself. It's bad because it is so strongly linked to the story, but it's also a good thing because it can stand on its own, rather than being dwarfed and overlooked by the weight of the tale that precedes it. And although it is often overlooked, like this, it has its own identity and stature. Now, having said all this, it might sound too fanciful or hyperbole, but that's the beauty of words and literature, and especially poetry. Each reader takes from it what they may, and crafts it in his or her mind the way they feel most comfortable doing. And that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. In the meantime, thank you so much for your continuous support, and be sure to check back into the channel very soon for another video. In the meantime, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!